Folks, welcome everybody to episode 22 of this humble little Zoomcast that commenced during some of the COVID lockdowns. I'm Matt Grima today. By God, we've got a special guest in the building. There she is, just doing what she does on Instagram and social media. It's the very well-respected and well-loved Sherrie Storor. Welcome, Sherrie.
Hello. Hi, Matt. How are you? Thanks so much for having me. You know, I'm an avid listener, so I'm super pumped to be on this podcast.
I can't believe you are, to be honest. I don't know how much we bring to the table here at Zoomcast. I know you just came off Elite Agents' Courageous Conversation. So for mine, that's one of the better podcasts going around, but we're thrilled to have you aboard. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Now, you're a lot of things. You're a real estate coach, you're a mentor, speaker, and an agent. You've done it all. You're about to launch, or you're certainly on the cusp of releasing an online real estate sales course that I reckon set to revolutionise the industry. We're going to get to that and more. But before we get to the present day and what you're doing from a coaching and mentoring perspective, the Zoomcast listeners, Sherrie, like to take it back to day one, where it all began, and give us a little bit of a snapshot as to your journey, as to how you've become who you've become and how you've got to where you are today.
Yeah, sure. Well, listen, I am 44, but I want to try and take my career as quickly as possible. So listen, I originally, I went to university like a lot of people did. I studied media studies and production and also PR, right? So that was always my background. And I'd been working in retail since I was a kid. A lot of people may not necessarily know this about me. So I was actually working for a radio station, dancing and singing on stage when I was a child. And I was also a cheerleader for the National Basketball League in Townsville and also for the Cowboys. So I was really comfortable on stage. I loved selling and, learnt that from, being really a teenager. And so when I went to university, obviously it was just an extension of these two, personality traits that I had kind of worked with as a teenager, and then kind of moved across. And I realized fairly quickly that I loved selling and I loved retail. And so the next extension of this was I decided to get into real estate. And I worked for a business called Wallace Bishop in Queensland, which is a family-owned jewellery company, quite a large business. They also own Hardy Brothers Jewellers. And long story short, but I kind of had got to the point where, essentially somebody had to die in order for me to go any further, because it was this traditional company that people were with for a really, really long period of time. And I was this real hungry kind of person who wanted to kind of be at the top of the top, because that's what success kind of looked like to me. And so here I am. I loved retail and I started selling off the plan real estate, because essentially it is retail real estate. You're working in a sales display. People come in, you basically find out, you probe and you find out exactly what it is that they need. You give them a presentation, you overcome the objections, you close the sale, and basically, you ask for it. So I worked in project marketing for a long time. In fact, I sold, we were talking about this earlier, I sold a lot of apartments off the plan, and a lot of the big high rises that you see in Brisbane, I certainly sold, a very large portion of those before opening my own agencies called Address. And that was quite a big business. I'd built that up. So, we were on-site selling in sales displays at 10 different locations, from Cairns all the way down to Byron Bay. They were just the ones that obviously were big enough to have a sales display. I had 45 sales agents working in that business. I had 3 residential offices. I had built up a rental department and sold that. Had never done that before, so just went at it. And when I decided to sell that, it was a big decision. And the reason why I chose to sell it at that particular point in time was that my property manager, we were moving her across into the sales division, and we just hadn't found anyone who was that right fit. So I was happy to take the cash and move on.
Yeah.
As part of that, I also had a PR division in the business. So anytime we would do a big launch, I obviously had a division within my company for that. I had a cleaning division. So look, things were really great in the 2000s, and really truthfully, when the GFC happened, I was a young business owner and I come from a really humble background. My mum is a single mum and I didn't really understand that what could go up could go down.
Yeah.
And, we went from selling a lot of properties to literally selling nothing overnight, because a lot of these developments were on the East Coast, were in coastal areas. And no one really wanted to buy a holiday home. And on top of all of that, I had a couple of developers that owed huge dollars that just never paid. And so I sold off all of my properties that I had accumulated to keep the business going, because obviously I had a lot of mouths to feed. Even at that time, I had 5 managers, whose salaries were all well and truly in excess of 100K a year. So it kind of got to the point where I was forced to do the inevitable, and I put the company into administration.
Wow.
Which was a really difficult thing to do, because
so this is 09, 10?
this was on 08 actually.
08,
So
yep.
in the later part of 08. So it was certainly a challenging time, because no one likes losing their money. It ain't very fun.
Right.
But the second part was that my identity was really wrapped into who I was as a person when it came to work.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really understand who I was if I was not this high-flying sort of real estate agent and CEO. And I was super embarrassed, and I didn't want to leave the house. I didn't want to go outside. It was just a really tough time. So, eventually, after feeling sorry for myself, I picked myself back up, got my shit together, and and started making it happen again. And I knew that the best way to make it happen was to get onto the tools. I did have a false start. So I, came in and I started working for Colliers as the director of residential. And that was in Queensland, overseeing, the residential side. So in addition to the project marketing, and I realized fairly quickly that corporate role was not going to be a fit for me, and that their ethos in running a business and mine were not in alignment. And so I kind of was forced to really decide what it is that I wanted to do long term.
Yeah.
And it was at this point that I realized I wanted to give back to the industry, and I wanted to make some changes, and I wanted to be a sales coach.
Right.
But I also knew no one was probably going to listen to me at this point, when I had really lost everything and I hadn't made my comeback, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got back on the tools and I started selling. And this is in 2011. And, I literally had to start from scratch. I didn't have a single listing. And the last time that I'd sold, Matt, was literally, in 2004. That was the last time I was on the tools. And, that were the good times. That was like, you would take a photo with your Canon camera, you'd load it up to Estatecom, you'd sell it for like, 10, 20% more in a day. And like, it was all happy days. Like, you were just wonderful.
Yeah.
But, here we were in 2011, and in the marketplace at that time in Brisbane, and I sold in the inner city. We'd had the floods. We were still sort of in that GFC mentality. So we have massive cash reserves in the bank. There were in excess of 31,000 properties in the market. No one was buying. And so I had to learn how to sell in a tough market. So, needless to say, I rebuilt, my brand, my profile. I got really hard. I went from literally having no listings to, going, becoming $1 million agent, then before obviously growing and moving even more so. So, the way that I really did this was, I'd always had EBUs. I was one of the first agents to have EBUs. I've been working them since 2003. And, I ended up getting to a point where I moved across into working with McGrath, which was a great thing to do.
Yeah.
Because essentially, I was then able to, all of these systems that I had perfected to really build my profile and to build my name and to build my business very, very quickly. And we were just talking about this before. I'm all about the systems and the templates. I was able to automate. I was able to build with my team, and then that allowed me to, to obviously, earn substantially more money, but work a lot less. So I was kind of at that point then working 3.5 days a week. And then I basically decided to give it all up, because I've been business coaching on the side, and I've been doing that since 2008. And, here we are today. I decided to give it all up, follow my heart, and try and make some changes for the industry.
Yeah.
And so I launched my coaching business. So that was about 4 years ago now.
I've got that many questions that are pinging around in my head. I don't even know where to start.
Sorry, I gave you a lot.
No, that's great. That's great. The media and PR stuff at the start, I absolutely love. I was a journo before I became a real estate agent. I wasn't a very good journo, which is why I became a real estate agent. But so I like that connection. I like the cheerleading reference. I mean, I like the journey and you talking through some of the business adversity that you've gone through. We had some adversity prior to jumping onto the bloody podcast because we couldn't get the link working at the start. So well done on you saving the day there. Can I get you to wind back to the first time you were actually the coach of somebody else from a business perspective? I could imagine that you would have been you would have been excited, you would have been enthusiastic, you would have generally thought that you could help change that person's cause from a career and maybe a personal point as well. But I can only imagine, Sherrie, that you would have been nervous as all hell, knowing that somebody's putting their future in your hands, so to speak.
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't really feel nervous because it was really clear that I could make a change to their business. And that it was really clear for me to be able to see, okay, well, in order to have a profitable business, we basically need to go in, we need to cut costs, we need to increase revenue, and we need to basically go through and look at the team that we've got behind it and the systems and the structures in order to occur it. So, I think when you go in and you have a very analytical approach, obviously I'd built up a very big business in the past. So it was just so clear to me. So I didn't feel nervous, to be truthful with you. I also have to say that I charged next to nothing, which maybe that made a difference. I don't know.
Out of it. Yeah.
But, it was just so clear to me what needed to be done and what the way was. And I think, a lot of people, I can certainly say this, that I learned a lot from having success, but I also learned a lot from losing it all. And I have to say that has by far made me the best business owner that I possibly can be, from losing it all and through that adversity and learning what not to do, so to speak. So I think that was really helpful.
Yeah. Can I ask, and then more to the one-on-one coaching. So obviously you've got agents that say, I'm at a point in my career, be it the very start, or be it someone who's been successful and wants to go to the next level again, decide to put a coach on. But I know from personal experience that so many agents don't have a coach or a mentor that they catch up with frequently, or they certainly don't invest in it. What do you think people struggle to take the opportunity to actually invest in some personal coaching? Do you think it's a fear of accountability, a fear of investing some money and then not getting a return? Talk me through that.
Yeah, I think it's probably a bit of both, to be honest with you. What I often see is that people want to level up, but then when they see the way of what needs to happen, they might say, you know what, it's too hard. And if you're not prepared to make, the changes in your business, then nothing is going to change. And if you're not prepared to do that, then what is the point of spending the money on it?
Yeah.
The people that I work with are great implementers. Usually there is a point in their life that has, something has occurred that has made them sort of reach out to me, and that they're no longer just prepared to sort of accept what has been happening for them in their lives and specifically in their businesses. They're wanting to prove something to themselves. That's usually what the driving force is, that they know that there's this potential inside them. But for whatever reason, there's been something holding them back, or maybe they don't really know what that blueprint needs to be, or how it can be, how kind of it needs to be followed. And so just shining the path, I think, is really huge. So, getting the shortcuts and the systems and the processes, but also it's actually just having someone else to believe in them. It honestly surprises me. And I currently work with 34 coaching clients right now, which is huge. So
Wow.
Normally it's only 10 at a time, but I'm currently at 34. And they're agents and agencies, and they're right around Australasia, and right around our country. And, some of them are selling principals, some of them are business owners, some of them are lead agents. But all of them have made this conscious decision that they're ready to level up. But what surprised me is the amount of them that said to me, I just the amount that you believed in me, like I just didn't see what you saw. For me, it
Right.
was so clear that
Yeah.
these people were total superstars, right?
Yeah.
And I think they just needed that extra boost of encouragement and to almost shine like a mirror on what it is that I saw in them and what I saw their capabilities of. And they knew deep down inside they had it, but I still don't think that they believed it, if that kind of made sense.
Yeah.
So, even talking to one of my coaching clients yesterday who's on the Gold Coast, and he joined, we've been working together for a while. We've known each other for a long time. Now, Owen, had never written more than 500K. His goal last year was to write $1 million. And I was like, babe, you're a $2 million writer. He thought I was crazy. See, to be $1 million writer is a big deal.
Yep.
But in Queensland, to be a $2 million writer, like, that's like the stuff of crazy kind of dreams.
Yeah.
Now, that guy wrote 500K in that quarter. And at that time, he had only had 2 listings, right? So he finished up last year just shy of $2 million, like literally just missing it. And in our coaching session, we talked about, okay, well, you literally quadrupled last year. You quadrupled literally your best year that you've ever had. And so this year, I've set this really massive goal for him. And, he's working on the buy-in of $4 million. So I said, okay, well, if you've literally quadrupled your business in 1 year, how hard can it be to double it? You've already done well, but way beyond that.
Yeah.
So I think it was just really believing that he was capable. It was setting those goals, showing him the light and how to do that, and then actually keeping it and holding himself on track and accountable. And he got competitive with himself, with no one else but himself. And I mean, there's so many stories like that. Like even we were talking about Louise Lupton earlier, who also, is at Marshall White and a business owner there. But, the same story was exactly the rollout for her, and watching her have her best quarter ever at that time. She had an amazing year last year.
Yeah.
But, watching her get competitive with herself and proving it to herself and tracking her own results. I mean, honestly, it's the stuff that makes me feel really good. It's the reason why I do my job. It's because it gives me the feels.
I remember at Eric a couple of years ago, Barbara Corcoran, they zoomed her in. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes.
She said something about her office at the start of every year and how people that definitely need her help weren't standing in line to pick her brain, and people that didn't need her help were almost sick with anxiety about not doing enough or not being enough. And she was looking at them going, well, you're already great at what you do, and I'm sure you're going to be even better again. So it's funny that the people that might reach out for coaching are people that don't necessarily need it as much as some people that are too fearful to find out what may be on the other side if they do invest. Give me a snapshot, Sherrie. Somebody comes to you for the first time, they've never had any real estate coaching or mentoring outside of, say, their franchise group or a guest speaker coming in from time to time. What are some of the first couple of things you do with that particular salesperson when you're trying to get them on the path of success?
Yeah. Well, to be really truthful with you, I generally don't work with green agents into the industry in terms of one-on-one coaching, because I'm not about the basics. I'm about the level ups, right? Yeah. So typically, I work with career agents who've been, in the industry for a period of time. They understand the appointment forms, they understand all of that part. In saying that, as you mentioned before, I have launched $1 Million Agent, which is perfect for greener agents because it does give you the path to really achieving success beyond $1 million in terms of GCI and revenue. But in saying that, I mean, I do make what would you say? There are times where I will break that rule. And there's 2 coaching clients that I'm currently working with now, 2 sisters in Shayla Park in Logan. They own Remax Revolution, and they have been in the industry for, in excess of 16 years. And, Brittany and I, Alicia, had always been in property management, said that, hey, listen, we want to do sales because we want to be better managers to our sales team, and we'd also love some income ourselves. And so I took them on, and last year they went from never selling a single property to selling 72 in one year, which is just incredible stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so, they literally just sold out. They implemented absolutely everything. So I think they're a really good example. Another team that I work with is a husband and wife couple called the Dangerfields, and they're in the Tweed Coast in northern New South Wales. And, they had literally Denise is actually, works in the financial sector, or an accountant by trade. Her husband, Brian, is a tradie or a tiler. And they'd actually renovated, built, and sold themselves, a lot of properties. I think it's like 22, I can't remember the exact number. So they did a lot.
Yeah.
And so even though they hadn't worked for an agency before, they had some experience. And I remember a good friend of mine, referred them through to me, who also works in this industry. And I was like, I'll just, meet with them just to be polite, but there's no way I'm taking them on. I met them and I was like, oh my God. And I mean, they had a month in November last year where they wrote 177K after only starting in the business in March.
Wow.
So, again, sold out to the process. So I think it is about investing when the time is right for you, when you're really ready to make some changes, to implement and to do what it takes. And it's not always about making money, I have to say. I mean, usually that's what we're doing this job for. We're doing it because we love it, but also we want to get some benefit out of it, right? We want wealth and we want freedom. And the way to create freedom is through wealth. But sometimes it's actually about no longer working 7 days a week or 6 days a week or 24/7, and understanding how to build out teams or how to build out their profiles. So I do find that there are different people who have different agendas in different stages of their lives.
You're big on that, aren't you? I've heard you say that in a couple of podcasts, just listening in this week to get some ideas on what you and I might share today. And I reckon I've heard you say that countless times, that the old school method of necessary, grinding away and, being the last person in the office till 8 or 9 o'clock at night and feeling this sense of pride that you've done that, you're probably letting something else go to invest that time, whether it's time with your significant other or your children or somebody really special in your life. I reckon I've heard that message from you a fair bit, and it's resonated pretty strong.
Look, it's just my personal experience, and it's what I see for most people. And I think there's nothing wrong if that's your decision, that you want to work 24/7. But I also have a lot of friends in this industry who are in their 70s and beyond that, who are still working today. And I feel like it's not out of, to some extent, it is a choice, because they've got all the money in the world. They've made a lot of money throughout their career, but they don't actually know what to do with their time. They're addicted to working, and the relationships that they might have with their partners, they might be divorced. The relationships with their kids may not necessarily be as strong, and their friendships are with real estate people, right?
Yeah.
So I think, that gives us cause for reflection. And we're seeing this with millennials today, making different choices about how they're choosing to work. Now, for me, I mean, I was one of those people, Matt, that literally worked 24/7. And, I was just so single focused, obviously, after losing all of my wealth, to basically get back on top and to have some money, because I didn't like, basically living on my friends' couches. And that was literally something that happened to me.
Yeah.
So you have to take responsibility and make some decisions around that. But I sold out to the wrong way of doing it. And that is how we worked in the 80s. So our industry model hasn't really changed from this hustle and grind mentality from all of that era ago. I mean, at that time, we didn't have mobile phones. So we put our landlines and our home phones on the signboards, but we haven't changed our thinking moving forward now. So, I don't think you need to work in that way. I think society doesn't expect agents to work in that way. They certainly want really good results and they want you to be responsive. But I think, if they're being if their expectations are beyond high, it's usually because there's some additional pressure that's coming in from a different way forward. But I think if you put the systems and the structures in place, if you build out a team, I'm a walking example of how that works. My clients are a walking example of how that works. So usually the first stage is building up to obviously writing this huge revenue and GCI. And then the second part is unlearning all of that and saying, okay, this is what we need to do to actually get you to this next level. And a lot of it involves working less and working on the business and having a clear mindset in able to be able to see things and to work on projects and to build up your staff and your team members in order to empower them so that essentially you're redundant in your business.
Yeah. Well said. So well said. Tell me what. So you're saying that a lot of people that utilise the coaching services that you provide are typically pretty good operators to begin with, and are really trying to level up and go to the next stage of their career. So I'm talking someone that might be writing $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 and want to get to 7, 8, 9 or $1 million plus. What sort of character traits do you typically see them have when they begin. And I'd only imagine from my experience and seeing it around me with some growth of agents, that it's only a couple of tweaks. It's not necessarily huge shifts. It might be more around discipline, focus, process, as opposed to you're not saying that right, or you're not sounding right in this particular part of the world. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, look, it's very rare that I'll really talk about scripts and dialogues. There are some occasions where we obviously discuss that, but usually it's more on strategy and thinking differently and putting in, sometimes it's about systems and blueprints, sometimes it's just about, okay, have you thought about this? So, it does evolve differently from coaching and training into the mentoring sort of side.
Yeah.
A lot of the agents that I work with, they've been with me for 3 years and some of them 4 years since I started my business. And so I've watched them go from being, a 300K writer like Sarah Ward, who, did a 90-day mentoring course with me. She's based in, she works at Stone Illawarra. And she started with me in the 90-day mentoring, writing 300K. Now she finished up last year just shy of 1.2.
Wow.
And, so it's been really lovely to watch her journey. So a lot of these agents I've seen grow from being 500K writers to 1 million, to 2 million, to, the 3, 4s, the 6s, to being the number ones in their groups and their franchises. And it's not just necessarily about being the number one and better than everyone else. It's about proving to themselves what they're capable of and giving different choices for themselves and for their families. So I guess coming back to the characteristics, I do see them change, and I think sometimes we can get caught up in, the numbers, or this agent did, 350 transactions. But then I kind of, that's great if that's what their life choice is. And if their life choice is to write 350 transactions and they're working 24/7, if you want a different way of life, if you want to find a partner, if you want to keep a partner, and you want to have a family, I kind of question, how is that going to work long term? And what is that partner going to look like that is going to tolerate a relationship like that? What is the relationship going to look like with yourself? Are you going to be able to do that for a couple of years and then be completely burnt out and not be able to work or to function and be at the loony bin? Because I have to tell you, that does happen to a lot of agents.
Yeah.
And that is real world stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it's really about working out what you want in your life and then going for it. And so having that reflection from, okay, I just want to come in and be number one, to actually saying, it's no longer about that. I've transcended past that. It's now actually about what's best for me, what's best for my family. How can I build the life that I want? How can I, create more freedom of choice for how I choose to spend my time, and to get better at what I do and to work with people that I enjoy working with, instead of having to take all the business that is just in front of you because you're a hamster wheel client and a payday millionaire where you don't know where your next listing's coming from or your next sales coming from. That's a very, that kind of way of living, it's very exhausting.
Yeah.
So most people typically start to look at, change it that way. Coming back to your question about character traits, the second part of that answer I'd love to give is, most agents that I see, they're go and stop. They're all or nothing. It's like they're all on or they're like broken it all off. Yeah. So I see that time and time again. And so one of the biggest lessons in my life has had to learn how to have balance, which has been really hard.
Yeah.
And, I think that I see that journey reflected in a lot of other people's actions as well, and challenges in life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. You're either all or nothing. You're fully on or you're fully off. You get to moments where you just want to throw your phone in the middle of the ocean and hope it sinks. And then you've got moments where you're so enthused and excited that a phone call is coming in with a number that you don't yet recognise. It's a funny game on the mind, this one, but no doubt people like you are making the industry a better place through your mentoring and coaching. Hey, I'm conscious of time, and you've been so generous this morning to jump on. But I want to get to, as I said, and I make no bones about it, I think you're on the cusp of releasing something that's going to revolutionise the industry in the way that it's set up. This $1 Million Agent online training, it's module based, isn't it? So the participants got to get involved and tick off some boxes in order to get through it. Is that right?
Yeah. So we have released $1 Million Agent to the marketplace, and the course content is literally, starting to roll out. So If you want more information about that, you can go and find it on my website, sherriestoror.com/$1 million agent. But yeah, essentially what it is, it's just all the things that I've learned throughout my career. It's what's taken me from zero to hero. It's what I've then duplicated and replicated with all my coaching clients that have turned them into $1 million agents and beyond. And so, this for me is really personal because, I came into this business as a coach, giving up everything that had made me really successful, and I had built this consistency of income and really great income and only working 3.5 days a week, to then basically do a startup and have to work crazy hours again.
Yeah.
And so, I did this because my personal mission was to change, how the marketplace views us as real estate agents in terms of being trusted professionals that operate in a really kind of honest and professional way instead of this burn and churn mentality. And the second part was how we work, which we've talked a lot about today, which is instead of working this hustle and grind, it's like, what can we do to put the systems and setups in place so that you are, achieving all you possibly can, that you've got wealth, freedom, and you're choosing to live your life in the way that you want to live it. And our careers are a big part of that. So so basically we've got 9 modules and there's various different lessons, and it is the quintessential course. So it's designed, as I mentioned, for the green agents. It is designed for career agents who've been around for a long time, who need to, perhaps embrace more sort of newer, kind of better ways, faster ways of doing things. It's great for teams. So I've got a whole lot of officers who are rolling out the training for their whole teams, co-agents and teams, and their EBU. So it's kind of really exciting. So yeah, we've had a huge take up, and obviously it's sponsored by Estatecom. So to have them endorse it is just, beyond exciting.
That's amazing, isn't it? To get that sort of level of support behind you. How did REA link up to the course?
Well, to be honest with you, I've had a really strong relationship with Estatecom, since when I was an agent, and it's a relationship I've fostered, really long and hard. And so they've supported lots of other events that I've done before and initiatives, such as the Women in Real Estate Breakfast, which we haven't done for a few years now. I think the last time we did it was in 2019, prior to COVID. And we visited 4 cities. We had 1,200 agents that attended, and of course they were one of our main sponsors for that. So I've always had a strong relationship. They've always been one of my champions, and they've believed in me. And by showing them what it is that I want to do, understanding, okay, we actually want, this is the whole agenda behind it. This is the platform. This is the learning. These are all the templates that are included. These are the free mini courses. They were like, yep, bring it on. So so it is exciting, and it's not without its challenges, because no one ever wants to part with their hard-earned money, particularly as sponsorships. So I was really pumped when they were like, yeah, we're in. Yeah,
fantastic. Sherrie, this is going to be available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. We're going to get it out across all social media platforms. I am conscious of the time. I think we've covered a lot of topics, and I reckon you and I have got a part 2 in our future. I wanted to delve a little bit deeper about your social media, the photography, all that sort of stuff that you do so bloody well. You're about 6,500 followers on Instagram, and I think that's going to climb as more people learn about $1 Million Agent, the online course. Where can people find you, Sherrie, if they're looking to interact or perhaps look at getting some coaching or even signing up to the course?
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. I love the plugs. Thanks for that. Well, I think you can find me on any social media platform, which is at Sherrie Storor, which is spelled SHERRIESTOROR. And you can find me at my website, sherriestoror.com. So, but yeah, I'd love to do a part 2 with you. I think that'd be really great. And, you've talked about some of my favorite topics, which is content creation and social media. And, what's, just to finish up on that point, what's really important is not necessarily the number, but the level of engagement that you have on your followers. So for me, I think industry wide is typically in between, 2 to 4%. My engagement is at 15%. So that's the number that we're looking for. So a little red hot tip there.
Nobody would know their engagement in my world anyway, when it comes to that sort of stuff. Sherrie, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for joining us today on ZOOMCAST.
Thank you.